Anyways, questions. I digress. Hey, Frankie Fihn, this is Russ. Says, just finished watching the main training video for Loom, so good. As you point out, demonstration proof is the highest form of proof. Charles Schwab pointed out that in How to Write a Good Advertisement back in 1962, and it still works today. Anyways, 2 quick questions. 1, do you have a sweet spot for how much the first date offer should be? 2, for a large legal campaign, how many clicks per day are you driving? I ask because one of the areas I want to focus my CRO agency on is the lead gen space. Abdul Rahman says, hello, please review my first Loom video targeting the life insurance agents in the US. Notes, English is not my first language, so I wrote a script. We'll send some suggestions from ChatGPT, read it looking at the camera, and then increase playback speed using Canva. It took me 2 weeks. I'm using the first date offer as a trial for 15 days or 100% refund. Need your thoughts before creating a Facebook ad campaign for it. I have a deep empathy in my heart for those of you guys who are going through this scenario. Okay, so I'm going to read you the question from Anonymous. It says, also for some context, I am juggling a 9-to-5 corporate job with this. It took going back to school later in life to realize I hate having an employer control my time and location. It's gotten progressively worse with time, and I want out. Spending most of your week being chained to a desk for someone else is no way to live. On the other hand, I know deep down I have to quit to be able to go all in on my agency, devote all of my time to it, and give my clients the best experience. But I would be lying if I said I didn't have some pretty big hesitation in it because once I quit, I'll officially have no income. The good news is I would only need about 2 clients on retainer to replace my current income. Do you have any advice for this situation? I appreciate your thoughts. Excited to see you guys all for another round of Agency Weekly Q&A goodness. The questions are getting smarter. The things you guys are building are cooler. And what I kind of want to really bring to you guys going forward is more leverage. And as part of the reason I've been pushing a little bit for those of you guys who are on the email list, pushing the Loom course a little bit lately. And I'll tell you why. I'm trying to turn on my air conditioning here. There we go. Turn down the fan. Of course, the button don't work. There we go. The reason I've been doing that is because I think when you make the switch to leverage, where like Video U is selling, and it does it 365 days a year and 24/7, and doesn't even take Christmas off at 3 a.m. if somebody wants to find out the details, it'll let them know. Is that ultimately like you buy back your time, which I think is the biggest gift. And I was playing with my little boy this morning, who's been in like a really mommy clingy phase, and every time that happens, I realize I'm so blessed because digital me is out there still making presentations while I'm playing with my little boy. And so it's not like the sales machine stops or is dependent on me. And that's kind of like, that's the real magic, is I can be with my kids and the business is still kind of working in the background. I don't think that's possible with one-to-one sales calls. Like either you get really good at them and it's hard to replace yourself, or you bring in a salesperson and then they still have ups and downs because they're human, and then there's all the scheduling conflicts and things like that. And once you realize like high-end things can be sold without sales calls, it's a really freeing thing. So I want to invite you guys to that because I'm just such a huge believer in buying back your time and the power of it. And I think one of the best things you can do is, and this is the thing I wish I knew years ago, the overall process works better because more people would rather watch a video than they would sit on an hour-long call with you. And so you just end up getting more people interested in your stuff overall. So if you guys are interested in that, you can go to beyondagencyprofits.com. There's a section for all our products, and the first one on there is the Loom course. Check it out, or I'm probably going to send an email today about it, so if you're on the email list, you can just wait. But otherwise, I want to tell you guys, check that out, because I'm a real believer in the power. Oh, and one thing I wanted to add as well is that we've been working on getting AI to do 90% of it, because it's a framework, and as long as you can answer like 4 or 5 questions about you and what you do, AI will spit it out, and then we've got another tool that will create the slides for you. So it's like, it's pretty much like 90% done in 5 minutes. Like, that's pretty remarkable. Used to be, like, the recording of it is 5 minutes, but the getting it ready used to sometimes take a lot longer. But not so now. Like, you can 10 minutes from now have your own Loom video. So that's the magic of what we're building. And of course, I'm happy to help you guys dial it in and critique it. That's the anything I can do to help you guys get your stuff converted in video. That's just life-changing, game-changing. Anyways, let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I always cough when that comes up. Frankie Fihn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. Knocking it out of the park. I was never a knock it out of the park kind of baseball player. I played 13, 14 years. I could hit the ball really well, but I was more like a doubles kind of dude. I just didn't have big enough dad muscles to knock it out of the park. Sad but true. Although I will tell you, we started playing years ago, softball, and we play some of those little league diamonds, and you can crush it over the fence, and you feel like, Mark McGwire peak steroid era. Anyways, questions. I digress. Hey, Frankie Fihn, this is Russ. Says, just finished watching the main training video for Loom. So good. As you point out, demonstration proof is the highest form of proof. Charles Schwab pointed out that in How to Write a Good Advertisement back in 1962, and it still works today. Anyways, 2 quick questions. 1, do you have a sweet spot for how much the first date offer should be? 2, for a large legal campaign, how many clicks per day are you driving? I ask because one of the areas I want to focus my CRO agency on is the lead gen space. I'm probably going to ask you for a little clarification on part 2, Russ, just to make sure I fully understood you, but I'll answer it as best I can right now, and then we can kind of see if I'm on the mark. So first thing, do we have a sweet spot for how much the first date offer should be? And what I've always suggested to people is think strategically so that whatever you charge them one time is what you're going to charge them continuously. So they did a lot of testing in the 70s and 60s with direct mail. And one of the things they found out, if you sold a $79 product and then you wanted to get people into a recurring membership, the price that worked best, like of all the testing they ever did, was also $79. And it makes sense, right? Because the way most people order their financing, they're worried about monthly payments. Like when they buy a car, they don't think like it's $38,972. They think I got to make a $382 payment a month or whatever a car goes for these days, right? So most people are just looking at the size of installment payments. And so I actually just saw a friend of mine, James Kemp. He's got a community that he sells for $100. And then the recurring offer is for $100, right? Like I think it's $100 a week. So that $100 a week, by the way, is a $5,000 sale disguised not as a $5,000 sale. But if you're trying to fundamentally get somebody to say yes to your thing, like a $5,200 sale is going to be a larger gap for them to jump over than $100 one time. But the way people organize their financing, if they're willing to pay you $100 one time, they're more than likely to pay you $100 continuously, right? So that's the whole methodology. So to me, like for example, if I had a $2,000 a month service I was trying to sell, and and I wanted to price a first date, and let's say it took 7 days for the first date to do its thing, I'd probably price it like $500 to $700, somewhere in that range. And then of course, say it's $600 and somebody gives you $600, or you price $597 because you got to be a marketer, right? You got to price it at a number that ends in a 7. But say you price it at $597. Well, if somebody gives you $600 one time, then it's very easy to go, if you want to, like we can just keep going and you can just give me $600 every week. In fact, I can actually get you a discount. We'll just do it an even $2,000 a month if you want to do it as a monthly thing. And it's a lot easier to sell that second thing after the first thing has worked for them. Seeing is believing. I see this all the time, that a lot of people who don't struggle to sell SEO sell websites right before it. Right? Because if you make somebody a really awesome website and they're happy with it, there's a trust, and now selling SEO is easier because you made them a good website and they're happy with it, right? So it's the same kind of idea. It's like you build trust with the first date, it's an easy foot in the door, and then you continue. Now, as far as the second part of your question, if I understand correctly, I may not actually be the best one to ask, because I've never been I guess that's not true. Like in our first agency, we did a lot of SEO and we drove a lot of traffic, but I was never the hey, we'll get you 10,000 leads this month. We've really done it kind of like mainly 2 ways with our larger campaigns. So one is we're going to get you a specific case type, like the more valuable stuff. And for that, like I don't know the click numbers, but I can tell you the conversion rate numbers were just like 2-3 leads a day, every day, right? So like 100 leads a month. It was pretty typical. Obviously like Facebook ads are never perfectly linear, and that was our vehicle, but like some months we'd have 200 and other months we'd have 67, but overall we kind of averaged around 100, which works out to, like I said, like 2-3 a day, 3-4 a day, something like that. And that's kind of how we did that. Now, I've also done stuff for like really big attorneys. We used to do something I called omnipresent retargeting. It was the idea that if they drive 100 visitors to their website, like only 5 of those statistically are going to convert, which means 95% of people never called you, never bought your thing, never picked up the phone. And so we just ran massive retargeting campaigns to those people. And instead of it being, we'll get you 87 billion leads, it was just like, we'll get you one more person. So the demonstration for that, by the way, was twofold. And I think yours would be very, very similar on your Loom video. So the demonstration, the first thing is I had to demonstrate to them how much of their actual business and advertising spend and all of that was going away. So on a website, like if they got 10,000 visitors a month, which for a lot of the bigger attorneys is, like for a local business, that's a lot of traffic, coming in locally. That means only 500 people like actually contacted them. So that means they lost 9,500 people. So like I showed them visually where that traffic is being hemorrhaged out, and so I just like made a little diagram. I put the website, drew like an arrow with and I do my shit in Microsoft Paint or Canva, like 100 people going in and only 5 of them going out, and like 95 of them got lost, like, and they're getting lost at your website. Let's do something about those 95 people, and then. The other piece of that was if I was doing conversion rate optimization, it might be like, say they get 10 sales a day now and they use your thing and they get 13. Like I would just like show a little graph of like, here's 10 Stripe notifications, here's 10 plus 3 more. Those 3 more came from the conversion rate optimization that we did. So it depends a little bit. Maybe you can clarify a little bit about like kind of what you're trying to sell with that, because then I can help you to kind of dial that in. But as you mentioned, the real magic of it is, as Charles Schwab put it, the demonstration. And I learned this because I don't know if you guys grew up the same way I did, but we just had like the little shitty bunny ears. Like I didn't have cable TV or satellite or anything. Like we were way too poor for that. And like depending on the day, anywhere from like 4 to maybe 8 or 10 channels came in, and a lot of times it was like, Jordan, don't move, like yell at my brother, like you got it finally, and then you're like, oh, you fucking let go, and like trying to get it to work perfectly. And one of the things that came in for us was like late night infomercials, and so I probably saw too many of those growing up. But they always have a demonstration for everything. Like I think the Slap Chop guy, Slappy Chop, or the CLR, right? Like they didn't say it's the powerful cleaner. They would take like a big patch of something dirty and like rusted or whatever, and they clean it up and they go, that's CLR right there. And that's all we're really doing with our stuff. For most of our stuff, it's just showing people how a lead shows up, or how a sale shows up, or how an interested client or customer shows up for them, and then like representing that to them as, this is what I'm going to do for you. Which kind of I'm going to lead into the next question, which is kind of related. So hopefully this helps, but. This is hell of a name, by the way. Abdul Rahman says, hello, please review my first Loom video targeting the life insurance agents in the U.S. Notes, English is not my first language, so I wrote a script. We'll send some suggestions from ChatGPT, read it looking at the camera, and then increase playback speed using Canva. It took me 2 weeks. I'm using the first aid offer as a trial for 15 days or 100% refund. Need your thoughts before creating a Facebook ad campaign for it. So I kind of made some notes here because a lot of people have sent me these Loom videos over the years and asked for like kind of critiques on those. And I'll tell you, when I see like the mistakes on them, they're almost always like in the same couple of places. So the first thing is the very opening slide is what I call a demonstration. And if you do this right, 60, 70, 80% of the sale has happened right there in a picture where a person just unconsciously thinks, I want that too. And what happens is a lot of times people think this is trying to sell your service, or the other mistake they make is like showing the demonstration as it shows up in their reality, not the client's. So for example, if you show a Facebook ad campaign, that's how you see what you're doing for the client. Right? Or showing a #1 Google ranking. That's how you see what you're doing for a client. But what do they see in their reality? And almost always it's just like a lead. They just get like somebody who calls them up and says, hey, I'm interested in your plumbing services. Or in my case, like we hurt our back in a car accident and we were wondering if we could talk to you about some legal advice, see if we got a case. Right? Like that's what they receive in their reality. Or sometimes they'll get those as a form, like somebody will fill out a form on their website and they'll get a little notification. Well, that's what you should be showing the client. And there's a tendency for people to think, because marketers have ruined this, that you have to oversell this. And I don't think you have to sell it at all. I think you just have to show people. And the way I think about it is, there was a company years and years ago that sold hurricane-proof windows. They were all over Florida and a couple of the southern states that frequently get hit with hurricanes. And there was a guy who was the #1 selling person in the company, and they had their big annual conference. And this guy was outselling like everybody. Like he was crushing #2, 3, 4, 5 combined. And so they asked him, how did you do it? And they were figuring maybe it's like a sales technique or something he says or the tie down. And what they found was way, way different. Like way, way different. Is he grabbed a window that they made, he grabbed a hammer, and at the start of the presentation, he took the hammer and he went, wham, and smashed it. And he went, see? Hurricane-proof windows. and that was what made the sale. And that is, to me, the example of a demonstration. And so there's a tendency to people to think you have to oversell that. Like, we have the latest, greatest, imagine how life is going to be once you have these perfectly installed hurricane-proof windows. And you just have to go, let me show you what a hurricane-proof window is. There's a hammer, there's a window, smash, right? And in our case, it's like, we're going to do some SEO, and you're going to see 3 to 5 people like this every day. And you're going to have to call them, you're going to have to drive over there, and you're going to have to quote them, and you know, you're not going to close all of them, but if you close 1 or 2 of those, you'll make your investment back in 14 days, right? Like, that's it. And so there's a tendency for people to oversell, but you're really demonstrating, and I want you guys not to think about this as like you're trying to sell somebody, rather they have already been sold, and you're just showing them now what you're going to do after you're going to be hired. So the second thing that throws people off, and this sounds counterintuitive, but like a Loom video is not about your service. At all. Like, this is not a chance for you to stand there and go, let me tell you about my service, right? Your service creates an outcome for a client, and depending on who you do it, the outcome's going to be different. Like, the outcome you create for a plumber will be different than a dentist, will be different than an e-commerce store, even if you do the exact same deliverable, which is importance of having a niche, right? Is like you can show people this is the outcome we create. I'm going to get people to call you and say, I hurt my back in a car accident, and we're going to get like 2 to 3 of those every day. Does that interest you, right? So I say that because there's a tendency to open it and go, hey, my name's Frankie, I'm from company XYZ. The reason why I'm talking today is I want to tell you about our service. And you've already lost the battle. And what you should be doing, like a good way to conceptualize it is, imagine you want to go on vacation to the Bahamas. Well, if you come to me as an like pretend for a second Frankie Fihn owns an airline. I'm like Richard Branson. You come to me and you say, does your airline go to the Bahamas? And I start saying, well, we have ergonomic seats, we have friendly stewardesses, let me tell you about our service, we have first class, we got, and you go, okay, that's all fucking fine and dandy, but you guys go to the Bahamas, right? So there's a tendency to think you're supposed to tell them about your service and all the details and benefits, but you're actually supposed to, the video is, let me show you how we're going to get you to the Bahamas. Okay? We go from your airport. We take off. We go in the air. We go 30,000 feet. It's 560 miles an hour, which makes our destination 3 hours and 42 minutes. At the bottom of that, we're going to touch down. We're going to land in the Bahamas. The capital city is called Nassau, and we're going to drop you off there. And from there, you can pick up a taxi and go wherever it is you want to go in the Bahamas. Does that sound good to you? Right? Never in there did I tell you about my airline and my service. I told you about how I'm going to get you to the destination. So if you understand that, don't make this about your service. Make this about where you're bringing people to. Another thing I see is like weak closing, where and when I say closing, like people think you got to be this hardcore shark. You just have to invite people and then tell them what to do if they want to take you up on the invitation in clear steps. So this is what weak closing sounds like. Well, if you're interested in potentially getting our service, then could you just email me back, right? Like, that does not inspire confidence that you know what the fuck you're doing, even if you actually know what the fuck you're doing. So you don't want to become all timid about this, but you don't also want to be this hardcore, like, heck no, it'll be only 3 easy payments. The way we do it is really just spell out, say, and if you'd like us just to do it for you, all you got to do is click the link below. You'll get a form like this. The form will have these questions on it. After that, we're going to hit you with this. If that sounds like something you want to move forward with, I will send you a payment link. Then we will get started with our onboarding process. For now, all you got to do is focus on clicking that little red button below and just let me know you'd like to get started. Right? So you can't be like timid about this. Zig Ziglar used to say, timid salespeople have skinny kids. Now, you don't have to be this like over-the-top closing kind of asshole, but you got to invite people with confidence, right? And by the way, this is something we all do anyway. Like, you got a friend and you want to invite him to a barbecue. Like, you don't do that like, well, maybe if you want to, go. No, you go, hey, listen, Tony, we're having a barbecue next Saturday. I'd really love for you to go. I ain't forcing you to go, but I'd really love for you to be there. So I'm gonna send you an invitation. If you want to go, you just text me a message by tomorrow to let me know that you're coming to my barbecue. right? That's how you invite somebody, right? So it's the same kind of process. I want you guys to think about it as inviting. Another thing people do is think they have to oversell and overstate their thing. Like I saw one the other day. It was like, imagine how good your life is going to be once you have this solution installed for you. You're already selling it, right? It's much more just like, okay, well, we get 2 to 3 people like this a day for you. It works real well if you're this kind of person. Let me show you how it works. We do these 3 to 5 things. Here's how much it costs. Here's what you're going to get for that. Here's who it works really well for. If that's you, this is what I need you to do next, right? Like it's really actually kind of boring and matter of fact. And part of what makes it real for people, you have to understand, business owners have been burned and bullshitted by marketers for like decades now, right? So the more you can just show them, like, I got a real world tangible plan. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to act. No lipstick. Just like, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to work. This is what you're going to see on your end. This is the timeline. Like the more no bullshit it is, the better it actually works. And so I think one of the things Alex Hormozi did, or at least people interpreted his book to mean, is that everything has to have this over-the-top guarantee. And it's really just more like you have to have confidence and certainty in your thing that it can actually do what you want it to do for potential clients. By the way, this happens sometimes on Facebook. If you guys are dropping comments, I don't see shit on my end. So I sometimes just have to respond to them after. Let me just see if sometimes if I open up a new tab, I see it. So anyways, so I hope that's helpful. And then the next thing is the plan isn't clear. Like at some point, there needs to be a logical, believable process for how you're going to deliver an outcome. And this is like it's not the place to lead, but selling is done with emotion. But they need to see something. Like I always say, like curiosity sells low ticket stuff real well. Like if you're selling, I don't know, like a $20 ebook, like you can probably sell that with straight curiosity. But if you're selling like a $20,000 solution, like there better be a tangible plan attached to it. And so a tangible plan, like they need to see clear, actionable steps that are going to happen. So there's basically like 2 errors people make. One is they get so detailed, they're like, let me show you the Facebook targeting option, and this I'm going to use, and blah blah blah, and then like the pixel I'm going to install looks like this, and they get way too into the weeds. And then the flip side of that is the plan is abstract and intangible. So it says things like evaluate, anticipate, organize, and like shit like that. Like just platitudes that mean nothing. It needs to be like, first thing we're going to do is target these people. Second thing we're going to do is run this ad. Third thing we're going to do is use this landing page. Fourth thing we're going to do is get them to call you. Right? Like it needs to be that kind of simple. Right? And this is what people are looking for. Right? Like they want to know enough. We had to recently to get a plumber here at my house. And I remember, like, when I was, like, talking to different plumbers, like, they gave me their plan. And it's like, I need just enough to know that, like, it sounds like you know how to fix this toilet problem. All right, come fix it, right? But I'm not necessarily looking for the plan from the, like, I want to do this myself. I just want to know that you know what you're doing and that you've done this before. And it sounds like you know what you're talking about, right? So that's the whole point of the plan. And then the last piece is half of the goal of video, by the way, is to sift and to sort and to filter, which means you actually don't want it to sell everybody. Imagine that. And I'll tell you, like, we are not mass market. We are not Starbucks. You are not trying to be for any dentist, for any doctor, for any attorney. You're trying to weed out for the right fits. And so it's very, very important that you call out the right fits and say, if this is not for you, that's okay. So I'll give you, for example, I think of Chris in the car detailing space. And one of the things we found when we were kind of diving into his process is that his stuff works really, really well for car detailers that have a real physical shop. And what he found is the people who were like the pain in the ass and gave him a hard time, they were what are known as mobile detailers. So they would like get hired and drive to somebody's house and edit in their garage and bring all their tools and stuff like that. And a lot of times they did that because they didn't yet have the money, right? Like they didn't have the cash flow or the deal flow to actually have their own shop. And so, for him to call out the people with money, it just is saying like, hey, we find our stuff works really, really well if you got your own real physical shop. Okay? Now, if somebody's a mobile detailer, doesn't make sense for them to call him, right? So we want to call out who it's for. And by and large, that means if somebody watches that video and they're a mobile detailer, they're like a non-fit for whatever it is you do, you want them not to call you, not to schedule a call, not to inquire, right? I say this because for most of you guys to hit your wildest income goals with an agency, you're talking 100 clients max, right? Like 200 maybe if you're crazy. For the vast majority of you guys, like, you don't need much more than that. You really don't need much more than that. So I say that because for you guys to like do that, like, you want to call out the right 100 people. This is not Starbucks. This is not come one, come all. This is if you are in this scenario. So it might be like if you can call the leads back within 5 minutes. If you have a systematic way, a CRM and a process, like, this will work real well for you. If you don't buy this shit, right? Right? And so I say that because, like, not enough people realize it's not supposed to be for everybody. So you want to screen this. So I hope that's helpful to you guys, because those are a couple of things I see done wrong. And if you nail those correctly, man, like, your life will get a whole bunch easier. And as mentioned, by the way, you can check out the Loom course on our site. For those of you guys who are interested, go to beyondagencyprofits.com, and then there's a courses or store, I forget what it's called, but there's a store where you can see the Loom course. Anyways, Angela says, how narrow is narrow when it comes to niche selecting? Thinking financial services, advisors, fintech, crypto. But should I just pick one of the above? So I think the vast majority of people in general misunderstand what the point of a niche is and then take forever to decide on one. So by and large, what I can tell, the vast majority of people think I need to pick a niche so I can find out who has money. Who has money that's going to pay me? And they think in their mind that if I choose a dentist, I'm going to make way more money than if I choose a dance studio or whatever. And there are some truth to that, you know, some niches do have higher average value than the other. But this is the truth, okay? Every niche is a spectrum. So, like, if I go into the attorney space, I can find broke, never made a dime attorneys, and I can find $100 million plus attorneys. I can go into the construction space. I can find a single solo guy who's just trying to get his first job. I can find companies that got 45 trucks on the road across 3 states, right? So there's always a spectrum in every industry. So it's not about what people think it is, like, I got to choose this right thing so I can find the money. It's really more about the delivery side. And what happens is, in the beginning, I did what I called a lot of custom work. And custom work is like, somebody came to me for Google pay-per-click. All right, I do that. Somebody came to me for SEO. I do that. Do you guys make websites? Yes, we do. And basically, anybody who showed up with a credit card, I figured it out. But what it created on the delivery side was a hellish nightmare to deliver and fulfill on, because you have all this custom work and there's a lot of hours. There's a lot of energy tied to it. And what happens is I was constantly looking for good, cheap, awesome freelancers, and I was always had too much work on my plate. Now I compare that to our second agency, where all we did is Facebook ads for personal injury attorneys. And what happened was, when we found one ad that worked for one attorney, we'd give it to everybody, right? We didn't have to come up with new solutions all the time. The opposite, we were reusing our one solution or our 2-3 solutions over and over and over and over and over and over again. We had to change little details. And what this enabled for us, and this is the secret of a niche, by the way, this is understanding this, is we were 90% finished client 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 before they hired us. Now, client 1 was a lot of work to set up and to figure out. And creating that solution was a lot of work. But the second and the third and the fourth time, it was actually very easy to deliver. And we had all the pieces and we had all the resources, and it's super easy to get started. That's reason 1 to pick a niche, is so that you can reuse solutions to clients. And therefore, your delivery life gets a lot easier, and it gets better for the client because it works faster, because it's more predictable, because you can actually almost forecast what it's going to do for them. We find if you can afford to spend $500 on a signed job, then we can get you jobs for $500 a piece, right? The more you can look at somebody in the face and say that with certainty, the more powerful it's going to be. Now, the second reason to pick a niche is because that you have some level of affinity with these people. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be madly in love with your niche, but you're going to give a shit about some niches more than others, right? And so the reason I say this is because if you're going to be successful in a niche long term, not just flash in the pan, 2-3 months, you figured some shit out, you are going to have to put yourself out there. Whether you do that with ads, whether you do that with outreach, whether you do that with content, whether you do that with affiliates, your shit needs to get out there in order to be sold. And how are you going to do that if you don't like the clients in the industry and the thing you're talking about? So the other thing is understanding that you're going to have to put yourself out there for like years and years and years in an industry. Like at the very least, hope it's something you have some interest in. So I'll tell you, like, I didn't wake up one day and say I had a dying love of attorneys. But when they started telling me their problems, I had a former life in corporate, and I just really related. They said it's a thankless job. It has long hours. There's lots of bureaucracy. There's lots of little stupid games and meetings. Clients don't understand what we do. It was sold to me different than like the job. Like being an attorney, I thought I was going to be this big shot. Instead, the world hates me. And on and on and on. And when they told me their problems, I was like, I relate to that, right? Like I'm a marketer who came from an office background. Like that sounds like a lot of the shit I deal with. And so I say that to you because you need to have empathy and you have to have some passion. It doesn't mean you need to be 100 out of 100 passion, but you need to have some passion to put your message and your stuff out there, because if you don't, you're going to find it really, really hard. So if you understand that, picking a niche, whether it's crypto or financial services, it doesn't really matter because you're going to specialize in the people with money inside of it, and you're going to create a reusable solution that can be reused again and again in that industry. In other words, like what works for one financial project works for another, or what works for one crypto project works for another. You're going to reuse it in one form or another. And then secondly, like I would actually like talking about this. Right? Like I actually believe in investing. I believe in building a 401k. Well, then you want to talk about that, right? So I say that to you because if you nail those two things, you're going to be ahead of most people in picking a niche. I actually created, if you guys are interested, just shoot me a message. I created a Google Doc that has a list of AI commands that'll walk you through actually helping to decide which niche you're going to do in. So you answer like 7-8 questions and then go, boop, these are the 3 suggested niches based on what you told us. So anyways, hope that's helpful. But once you understand that, the agony of choosing the wrong niche is like mostly gone. And just move forward with it. Next piece. Anonymous. This one is near and dear to my heart, this question right here. So this was an anonymous one, and by the way, like I get this question a couple times a week, and I have a deep empathy in my heart for those of you guys who are going through this scenario. Okay, so I'm going to read you the question from Anonymous. It says, also for some context, I am juggling a 9-to-5 corporate job with this. It took going back to school later in life to realize I hate having an employer control my time and location. It's gotten progressively worse with time, and I want out. Spending most of your week being chained to a desk for someone else is no way to live. On the other hand, I know deep down I have to quit to be able to go all in on my agency, devote all of my time to it, and give my clients the best experience. But I would be lying if I said I didn't have some pretty big hesitation in it, because once I quit, I'll officially have no income. The good news is I would only need about 2 clients on retainer to replace my current income. Do you have any advice for this situation? I appreciate your thoughts. All right, so for those of you guys who are still in this 9-to-5 world, and just so you guys know, like I had a former life in a 9-to-5 world too. I worked for the Ford Motor Company. I started in the front office and did a bunch of stupid corporate shit, and then I eventually became a floor supervisor. That was my first go in the 9-to-5 world. And then I also went to school to be an engineer. So I did some dabbling in different jobs as an engineer. I think about my last job, or my last 2, I was an engineer, like drawing AutoCAD drawings in a cubicle all day long. And they always wanted you to stay extra hours, and you're on a salary, so they could stretch how much they could pay you for those hours. And then as well, my very last thing, I worked in the oil sands in the middle of nowhere in Fort McMurray, Canada, where I was an engineer, like working on these giant trucks that pick up oil sand. So I just say that to you guys, like I know what that's like. Now, having said that, for actually getting out of corporate hell. And a lot of times this is the hardest place to be in, by the way, is it's the golden handcuffs. It's the golden handcuffs, because you make just enough to have your basic needs covered and not much more. And so it's like reliable, it's predictable, but at the end of the day, I read a book called From Good to Great, and you know deep down, like, yeah, this is okay, this is a good life. It's like there's definitely people who have it worse than me, but you know a great life is possible, and you're not owning that. You're not traveling the world, seeing things, doing things, whatever. Okay, so I want to be real with you guys, because I feel like a lot of internet gurus promote that like 0 to 10K, it's so easy, anybody can get started. And I'm not saying that's not true, but that's a load of bullshit. Okay, I'm here to tell you the opposite, that it is hard, especially in the beginning, but it is doable hard. And I'll tell you, I've only ever seen two ways that people make the transition from the 9 to 5 and live the full-time agency life and succeed at it long term. And they are drastically different paths, but they have the same kind of ultimate outcome. Way number one, and this is the way I did it, and I actually don't think this is recommended for everybody, is I jumped out of the fucking plane, I quit my job, and I decided to build the parachute on the way down. Now for me, my reasoning at the time was like, well, if I need to go back to a job, I could. It would suck, but I could. And the ironic thing is then that, the 2008 financial crisis came, and actually all the jobs disappeared on me, so I couldn't go back. So it was kind of like, in hindsight, it was a dumb decision, but life kind of pushes you that way. But I'll tell you something that happened for me that I really wish I knew. I really, really wish I knew back then. I watched as in 2007, the financial crisis hit my local area 1 year before everybody else, and it just like really crushed the local economy. What that meant was like pretty much half the city works for Ford, General Motor, and Chrysler, and they were all laying off people. I don't remember if you guys remember the auto bailouts and stuff like that, but the government was bailing out these different companies after all these crazy loans and all that madness. But what it meant locally was I'd open the newspaper and it would say, General Motors lays off 10,000 people today to close East Side plant. And they just fired 10% of the city in a day. And the suppliers of them, like there's a ripple effect, and all the restaurants that depended on them, and the shopping and all that. And it was like, and what I realized is I went back to Ford to see my old boss, and I had to like get signed in and go through security. And at this point, I was no longer an employee of Ford, but I just wanted to say thank you because I really had a cool boss back then. And so I went to go in and say thank you to him, and I ran into a couple of the guys, and they told me about the layoffs at Ford that had happened. And Ford laid off everybody who had 22 years seniority and less, and a lot of those jobs never came back. They went to like different parts like Mexico. And it made me really realize that you can fail at your plan B. Like you can line up your plan B, go all in on your plan B, and it's still, the rug can be pulled up. Hey, you got 22 years? Fuck you, go find a job somewhere else, right? Like that's what Ford did, and there's no more retirement, there's no more anything like that. And so I say that to you guys because, and I see Cole says, I feel what Anonymous is saying. You can fail at plan B. So like to me, that like gives you all the more reason to go all in on plan A. And to me, it just meant, I just quit. I couldn't do, and you'll know you're an entrepreneur because you'll realize everything they do at the company is just stupid, and it's like pointless meetings, and like takes them like forever just to make a decision, and they won't do anything to improve themselves, and they have all these old stupid processes, and they want to just keep you there for longer and longer hours, and you just like watch the second hand going like, man, I can't wait till fucking 5 o'clock comes on Friday so I can get the fuck out of here. This is me getting random calls from random Mexican numbers. So anyway, so that's way number one, is you jump out of the fucking plane and you build the parachute on the way down, and you realize you can fail at plan B, and it's terrifying and it's scary, but you'll as long as you stay persistent, you'll come out of it. Number two, and we've had a few people, by the way, like I think of some of the folks in our mastermind who have told me I'm now having my best months I've ever had in my entire life. And they started in the 9 to 5 world. And one of the things that they did is they built a buffer of savings. So I think a Christian who built 18 months worth of savings. So he knew after having 18 months of saving that he could quit his job and like not have this intense pressure of like, I gotta go get fucking 2 clients by morning or I'm not gonna be able to make my rent. And what happened is then he was able to build the business over like 6-12 months and kind of pace himself and do what was needed, and kind of just like building a buffer and waiting till it's ready. Which plan is right? Like, you decide which one of those is right for you. Both of those work, by the way. So like whatever, but those are the only 2 ways I've ever seen people go from that transition. I'll tell you, for a lot of people, this is the honest to God's truth, is like a lot of them stay stuck in the 9 to 5 world because it's golden handcuffs. They make just enough money that it's not easy to replace, that they just stay stuck in a good life when they could have a great life. And as you mentioned, this is what kills me. This is what kills me the most, is the barrier, or like the amount needed to be successful in our world is so small. Like I actually, when I went through this in the 90-day challenge, I had this conversation with Lane Hauk. After, I don't know, a period of time, we added like I added exactly 6 people, just so you guys know, exactly 6. And that translated to 15,600 in recurring revenue. I was like, Lane, you realize like I'm already in the top 1% earnings worldwide. Like if you took 100 people sampling from the world and you measure their income, I would be number 1 in less than 30 days from 6 people. Like for you guys to hit your goal, it is not a mountain of people that have to say yes to you. 6 fucking people. And you, like there's services you can sell for $15,000 a month. So I say that to you because like I'm not telling you it's easy. Anybody who bullshits you and tells you it's easy, it's not. In fact, if you're building the savings and building the agency on the side, you're probably for a period of time going to have to work twice as hard. You go work out some job, you come home fucking exhausted, and you still got to be building shit like an hour or 2 a day, even though you don't have the energy to do it. Like for a period of time, it's going to be hard. But it's worth it. And like I said, like you need like 6 people. And I'll tell you what it was for me. I remember my initial goal was I want to get to $5K a month because that was like I knew I would never need a job a month again. Like that was a decent job if I could get $5K a month. And when I hit 10K, like the first time I hit 10K in a month, and I realized I could get back here even if I lost it all. Like it was just a couple of clients. It was just a handful of clients. I was like, it was the first time I realized like I'm never going to be an employee ever again as long as I live. And that was like, holy shit. Like just knowing that was like amazingly freeing. So I tell you guys that because it is worth it. It is, in my mind, absolutely 1,000% worth it. And I'll tell you like how it translates to me now. I'm not saying we have it all figured out because I definitely do not. But, you know, like we get to do fun stuff. We get to go to the beach. Ilka's taking the kids right now. They're at like a library where they're reading books and making arts and crafts and, you know, just having a good time. And later she's doing an interview and I'm going to do something fun with them. Maybe I'll take the kids in the pool and stuff like that. Most people don't have time to do shit like that in the middle of the day on a fucking Monday or a Tuesday or Wednesday. And it's funny because now one of my challenges, I've been in this world so long, I have a hard time scheduling stuff with like friends and family that are in the 9-to-5 world. Like my brother gets 1 vacation a year, so he plans his vacation like next year. He already knows where he's going, so he's like, what are you guys doing, you know, July 1st next year at 2 p.m. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing on Friday. I'm just making it up as I go because I have that kind of flexibility and autonomy, right? So I share that with you guys because like that's the worth it, is that, you know, the not being chained to your desk. Not for me, actually the biggest thing is not having a fucking alarm clock. God, I can't tell you how much I fucking hated having an alarm clock. Now I have kid alarm clock, but you know, at least I wake up to hugs and cute faces instead of that. So I hope that's helpful to you, Anonymous. Last question we got on the docket is Olivia. And Olivia says, can the Handraiser be cold outreach, or does it have to be inbound like a piece of content or an ad? Does an inbound versus outbound Handraiser make a difference when moving from video to sales conversation, even if it's 5 minutes versus 60 minutes traditionally with regard to conversions? Both work. So I want you to understand that both work. But the conversion process and the numbers will look dramatically different. And I'll tell you, this is a thing that not enough people think about. If you could measure like how pre-sold somebody is by the time they get to your offer out of 10, with cold stuff, the vast majority of people by the time they get to your offer are like a 1 to a 4% sold. And the flip side of that is if you do like content or ads and inbound, you do it right, like where it's a sequence, it's a series of messages, you can get people from 7, 8, 9, and 10. And so what that means is, like, a lot of times if you're doing it cold, like a stranger is just sitting there, like arms crossed, like, who are you and what the fuck? Tell me about your service there, big boy. And you got to kind of like sell them, as where when there's 7, 8s, 9s, and 10, it's like, hey, I really want to do this thing, but I got a last minute question. Can you tell me about this? And blah, blah, blah. And so for those of you guys who are not familiar with the terminology, like backtracking a little bit, a Handraiser is just a short summary of an offer. So like, for example, if I'm going to do an SEO service, and again, because we were talking earlier, like translating that to an outcome, like let's say I'm doing it for a general contractor, and as a result of it, he's going to get 50 to 100 phone calls a month for people interested in deck and fence jobs. Right? Well, I'm selling, I'm going to get you 50 to 100 phone calls a month in deck jobs. Well, before I build that whole offer and a whole team around it and a whole system around it, I'd like to know, are they even interested in getting deck jobs or 50 to 100 of a month for the price I'm suggesting? So I would just send a one-sentence summary of that and see if anybody says, well, I'm interested in that. Because if they're not interested in that, like, they're not going to buy it later either, right? So the Handraiser is a way to tell that. Can you do that in an email? Yes. Can you do that in an ad? Yes. Can you do it in a piece of content? Yes. Can you do it in a Facebook post? Yes. Can you do it in a YouTube video? Yes. And I'll tell you why. Because it works on people. It works on people, right? So it's not like platform dependent. The nuances of it where it's different is the level of warmth. And I'll give you guys a big secret here. The way to pre-sell people so they're warmer when they come to your offer is to really just show them your process or your methodology that gets them the result they want and lay out the framework of how that works. So I'll give you a for example. Chris from our mastermind has a Go High Level software as a service. And so what he's doing is he helps plumbers get a bunch of reviews on their Google business profile, and that helps them, get A, more phone calls, and B, like higher buyer intent phone calls because they're like, hey, I called you because of your Google reviews. Well, if I'm creating a presentation or an ad or a piece of content, it's going to be about why you need Google reviews to help grow your plumbing business, so that by the time they get to that offer, they're pre-sold on the basic idea of it. Ergo, they're going to come in a lot warmer on that instead of being like 3 out of 10, like, who are you, Mr. Go High Level SaaS big boy? Instead, they're going to go, hey, I saw your Google review webinar. I agree with it. I think we need more Google reviews. Can you tell me a little bit more about how your solution works and how you guys help us get those Google reviews, right? It's a very different nature of the phone call. So I say that to you because Handraisers work, but the difference between inbound and outbound is the level of like temperature they're going to do. Now, having said that, if you use video to do the sifting and sorting, the temperature is almost irrelevant because just send everybody the video, and the 8, 9s, and 10s will call you, and the 1, 2, 3s won't. That's it, right? Like, you just never hear from them again. Her man Cole says, no one else but Frankie talks about the realities in the online game. I kind of laugh about it, Cole, because like I just know a few of the guys who have the 2 Comma Club awards and 5,000 fastest growing companies. And I'm not saying they're all full of shit, because I know some really cool, awesome people too. But I know some people that are like 100% full of shit. People who did it like one time for like 3 months and have never been able to capture the lightning in the bottle they got that one time, and they're still selling beginners on like, give me money because I'm the 2 Comma Club guy, or I'm the 5,000 fastest growing motherfucker alive. And I think the honest to God's truth is that it's hard, man. Sometimes it's hard, and it's not for everybody. Like, I'm not here, like, you'll notice I don't sell people the internet dream because I don't think it is for everybody. I think for the people like us that are in this world and do it, it's fucking awesome, and there's a reason why we work so hard, because the amount of freedom and autonomy and flexibility, like, just being real with you guys, like, part of the reason I moved to Mexico was the COVID rules in Germany were just getting so ridiculous that I was like, I just want these people to leave me the fuck alone. And nobody was leaving me the fuck alone. Like, I'd go for a walk in nature where I never saw another person before, and then all of a sudden there'd be a police officer in the middle of the path, like, can't go past here, the virus is going to get you on the other side. Like, you're going to fucking be kidding me. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Shit like that. And so I went, where can we go to that doesn't have these rules? And because I have freedom and autonomy and flexibility and I can do my shit anywhere, I was like, that's it. I'm moving countries. Nice to see you. Bye-bye, Nazi. I'm going where they don't have lockdowns and they have warm weather. So I say that to you guys because, like, there's some really cool side effects. See Germans. That's right. I see John. But anyways, as far as the question at hand, like, bringing it back here, Olivia, I'm personally a believer that the fastest way to grow an agency is to identify the small 10-20% subgroup known as the buyers, the people who buy all the marketing services in your industry. Find out what they're buying already and co-create stuff with those people so that you stand in front of the buyers. And the way I explain this to people is years ago, I had my first ever job. I was 13 years old, and I sold chocolate bars for the blind. And on a given day, they'd make us just bang on doors selling chocolate bars. And, you do that 4, 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 8 hours a day until you were all sold out of chocolate. And you'd make like $50, $100, which for me was like video game money. I could go to Blockbuster and rent whatever game I wanted, GoldenEye. Or you could also like go to the movies. I could buy all the candy I want. My mom couldn't tell me you can't eat all that candy because I could buy my own candy, and there was no more candy Gestapo. There's a lot of Nazi references in today's presentation here. But the problem with that is, what nobody will tell you is the process of making that $50 to $100 was a massive grind. And there's like a lot of rejection you face. Like a lot of like, fuck off, people slam the door and you go, eat shit, why'd you just wake the fucking baby? Which I better understand now. And then there's a lot of just like, nobody's home. You stand there 10 seconds, I guess nobody's there. And then there was, the sweet old lady who's like, I'd love to buy you some, but I don't eat candy. It doesn't work with my diabetes. But what would happen is, you get some yeses in there. After a massive amount of grinding, there's some yeses in there. But what we figured out is once a month, our local, we would go to the local grocery store, and our manager would ask the grocery store manager, is it okay if we sell chocolate bars outside the grocery store? And he always said, yeah, go for it. We'd set up 2 kids at every main entrance, and every single kid would be sold out of chocolate in 10, 15 minutes. 20 minutes max on a slow day. And I attribute that to the fact that the grocery store has the ultimate buying audience. People got in the car, drove, put money in hand, intended to spend money on food, and then we just intercepted them along the way. And I'm a believer that this same strategy can be replicated digitally, is that you ultimately identify all the things they're buying and you co-create with what I would call the grocery stores in your space. And then you simply stand in front of the buyers as they go through. And so for me, what this looked like back in the day is like, I would go speak on stage at a lawyer conference. Again, buyers. How do I know they're buyers? Because they spent $1,000 to be there, plus plane rides, plus flights. How do I know they would be willing to spend money to grow their business? Because they just did. And we'd sign 5, 10, 15 clients when I came off stage. And at first I thought it was because I'm awesome and I'm charming and I'm the most amazing speaker ever. Like I got real big on my own ego. And then I realized so does everyone else. Everyone else signs 5, 10, 15, 20. Some of the really good speakers sign 50 or 100. And why do they do that? Like why do they go to the conference? Because the buyers buy everything. They don't buy just your shit. They buy other people's stuff too because they want the competitive edge in every way, not just in one way. And so anyway, this strategy can be replicated digitally. I'm a big believer. Do that. Co-create with the grocery stores in your space, and then put those little Handraisers into their flow, where often they've spent 10, 20, 30 years building that. And for those of you guys who are interested, I did a little webinar back on the day on that. I'm happy to send you the replay. I'm not going to say it all again, but I'll send you the replay and you can check it out. And Cole says, I'll see your ass at the facility. Dude, you do not want to mess with me at the facility because I played like too many trillion hours of the game. I think, at least in our world, we were the first ones to get that cheat, my buddy and I, which was like seemingly impossible for many years. Now you can go on YouTube and see how to do it, and but it took us like 10,000 tries to figure out how to not beat that level on 00 Agent and try and finish it in 2 minutes 15 seconds. Nothing worse than you get shot you'd be right at the end of the level finish line door, and you get shot in the back like 10 feet from the fuck, I just had it. Anyway, so that's all I got for you guys today. As I mentioned, I've been pushing the Loom course a little bit because I believe that it's the ultimate leverage to replicate what you do in terms of offering your digital marketing services and make it so that the hardest working person in your company is digital you, because digital you has an advantage, works 24/7, 365 days a year, does not take days off. That means, like for me, I can go to the beach, hang with my kids, and digital me is still prospecting the whole damn time. Still making sales pitches, right? So imagine that. So that's what I think the real, and then a lot of people try and bring in salespeople, and that can work, but sales are human. They have good days and bad days. They quit on you. You got to hire new people. There's bad salespeople, a lot of them, right? Like there's a lot of screening and filtering you got to do, and often you can't afford the cash flow for 6 months to have salespeople who don't know how to sell, and you got to train them and do all those things. Or you can just replicate your sales pitch in a video and never takes a day off again as long as you live. And that, I'm a big believer in that. And one of the reasons I've been pushing it a little bit lately is because we've made some changes to the course to make it so that AI can assist you with building it. And so it's really just a framework. So like I've set it up, you enter in this giant prompt, it gives it tons of reference examples, and then you answer like 7-8 questions, and then it'll spit out like these are your slides, and then you take those slides and go to another AI tool and say, can you create these slides for me? And it goes bloop, and 90% of your presentation can be done in about 5 minutes from now. And it's pretty fucking good. Like I wouldn't say it's 100%, but it's like 90-95% of the way there. The biggest thing that I mentioned, I've got a training video that explains it. It probably misses the opening slide just a little bit, and then I explain just how to tweak that. And then we just make our images that go support that in Microsoft Paint. Like it's another 2-3 minutes, just copy and paste some screen shares and put them in, and you got like a bitchin' presentation that like can work for you for years and years. And it's a fundamental switch that I don't think enough people talk about in our space. But this is the switch, and like eventually, whenever I get this J. Abraham endorsement, I'm going to release book 2, and it is 2 things. Okay, so it's like the middle class way of working says trade my time for money, and there's a lot of ways people do that in sophisticated packaging, right? I think the way people do sales call is a sophisticated way of trading time for money, because you got to spend an hour on the phone with somebody to make the money, right? So like you're trading time in order to earn that. As where when you do it through video, you're saying, I want to rent and own digital assets that I control. And so it's like, I have a video, watch the video. And you're directing people to your known conversion asset. And then, they sift and sort based on whether they want to buy it, not buy it, those kind of things. And as a result, it frees your time from the sales process. And this is something, by the way, like I don't talk about this as well, but you can use this process throughout different aspects of your agency. So you can use this to train people, you can use this to hire people. And then also, it's not limited just to selling agency services. Like I think back when we left Germany, I remember Ilka, we just had to get rid of a bunch of stuff. Like you can't take a fucking washer and dryer on a plane, and I didn't really know for sure what kind of house we were going to stay at long term. So I didn't want a storage, and it was just too complicated. So it's like, let's just sell the thing, and if we need a new washer and dryer, we'll buy another one when we get there. And so I remember she didn't. We were so low on time because we had just too much shit from the kids and all that she didn't want to have to stand there. So she made a video. She made like an exact Loom video demonstrating this is the washer and dryer. This is what it does. Let me show you it run. These are the issues it got. This is the thing that's good about it. This is how much we want for it. And she just laid the whole thing out in a freaking video, so you could see the washer and dryer. These are the hours you can pick it up. This is the right person who should buy it. And we ended up having 10, 20, 30 people say they would buy it in like a day. Actually, I remember there were 30 people who said, I'm interested in 30 minutes. And then I don't even remember how we did it. I think it was just whoever showed up first, cash in hand. Like, all right, it's your washer and dryer. Nice. I think it was just a washer too, actually, now that I think about it. But point being, we never talked to anybody. Somebody just came over from the ad, gave her cash, took the thing, bye-bye. And I've done that with cars. I've sold a car that way, our own car, that was in storage a long ways away. Actually, when I sold it that way, I remember I had 200 buyers apply in the first hour. I had to actually turn the ad off because it was literally the insane amount of replies I got was like, holy shit, I never thought this many people would ever reply to a free fucking car ad that was just on a Canadian kind of Craigslist equivalent called Kijiji. I was like, damn, we had a lot of fucking people apply. So I share that to you guys because you can sell anything with video. And a lot of times people think there's some imaginary price tag on a Loom video. They go, well, I sell $10,000 things. We got to do 1,000 calls. Well, I hate to break it to you, but we've sold $100,000 thing and up with no sales call, right? It's not price dependent. A lot of times it's really the power of it is you're doing a sales call in fast forward. You're answering all the questions they would normally ask you on a sales call, and you're doing them powerfully, succinctly, and quickly. And the way we do that really simply is everyone else is trying to sell with words, and we try and do it with images. And I'll tell you why, because images allow people to get what it is you're saying way, way faster, and so it integrates on the other side with ease. So if you think about the washer example, if I tried to explain how the washer runs, do you think that's going to be nearly as effective if I just show a video, go, let me show you how the washer runs? They get it immediately. It's it's a little bit noisy, but for the most part, it fucking works, right? Right? You can show them exactly how it runs. If I want to show them what you can do with it, not do it, or how old it is, again, if I show them a video, look around, it's pretty much brand new. Other than this, there's one little thing here, right? It's pretty much brand new. So I say that to you guys because There's a real power in turning. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and what we're doing is demonstrating, and a demonstration is worth 1,000 pictures. And so when you can demonstrate what your service is going to do for somebody, who it's for, how the whole thing works, start to finish, how much it costs, why that's valuable to them, and there's a very clear next set of action steps, there's just literally no reason for them to say no to you if they're the right fit. And so then you just have to focus on driving the right fits to it, and it just works for you continuously. Like it's an investment in buying back your time more than anything else for the rest of your life, is how I see it. And now that we've got AI tools to make it just easier to build, because one of the challenges I struggled with is it's always the same process, because the questions you get asked on sales calls are essentially the same in the same order, but everybody's is a little bit different because we're all selling something a little bit different to a little bit different market. But now, using the power of AI, we can do those little customization pieces. And the way I was able to do that, I found this credit to both Jeff Hunter and Jonathan Mast, hanging out with them in Cancun. They showed me the biggest reason why most AI stuff sucks is because people don't feed it enough reference material to say this is what you're trying to create. So I just loaded up all the Loom examples and presentation and what goes in slide by slide, explaining it to what the presentation looks like and what we're trying to do in each step and how to summarize it and how to say it. And then when we fed that as a prompt and explained to it what questions it needed to ask us, like, we actually get pretty fucking amazing results. So anyways, and of course you get my help checking that. So I'm going to send some emails about that, but for those of you guys who are interested, you can always go to beyondagencyprofits.com, check out the store, add in the Loom course, change your life, because, it's not just me. Like, I wish I could tell you I got like some awesome wizardry, but we've had dozens and dozens of people tell me, like, holy shit, like, I can't believe my stuff just sold through video. I hear it now, like, I wouldn't say every day, but like frequently throughout the week, I hear people go, holy shit, like, you can close through video. I wouldn't have believed this was possible. And it's easier. It's easier because most people don't want to fucking jump on a 60 to 90 minute call with you just to ask you, how much is it? And they don't want to hear you go, well, that depends on blah, 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 blah. We got to go through the whole fucking long-ass minute sales call before I'll just tell you how much it is. A lot of them are like, just give me a video. Okay, that's $2,000. That's no problem. Where do I sign up, right? And so it allows them to, like, be more empowered as buyers. And so they like it more, and you like it more because you don't have to talk to people, right? Like, just let the video do the sifting and sorting, and you only have to talk to people when they say, okay, I'm ready to buy it. Let's get started. So anyways, that's the magic of it. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys. Happy Monday. Appreciate y'all. Much love. May the force be with you. That's been a nice, good hour of Old Man Yells at Cloud. Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll probably also like our free Facebook group, Beyond Agency Profits, Agency Lifestyle Design. You can get free copies of the book inside here. I look ridiculous. We're doing weekly Q&As, giving answers to all your questions. Some of the best, smartest, brightest people. We've got lots of industry leaders doing 7, 8 figures and beyond. It's a literal who's who of the brightest agency owners that I know, as well as lots of tips on scaling and stuff, books that work. So if you're not already part of it, you're going to want to be part of it. So make sure to click the link. I put it in the description of the video as well as in the pinned top comment below. So just scroll down and you can join, and it's totally free.